Well, it seems like the only thing they know is somehow to, I guess they call it limit China, right? To control China somehow. They still trying to control China. So one of the example is the latest about the Panama Canal. So the two ports on the ports on both sides are now in the negotiation now that CK Hutchison, which use currently is the owner of that, and now is selling it to BlackRock. Not just those two ports, there are other 43 ports,
Yeah.
I think, altogether. It's a huge deal.
Mm,
Just so to share with you that this thing is really big in China, lots of discussion about that. The most significant part is this 大公报, which is a newspaper in Hong Kong that many people believe is the mouthpiece of the Chinese government, and wrote an article saying, "Don't be naive, don't be confused." So that article was very critical, highly critical of Li Ka-Shing, the owner of CK Hutchison. And the Hong Kong and the Macau Affairs Office in the Chinese government republished this whole article on its website, which
mm,
is highly unusual, which basically saying, read
mm,
it, this is what you need to know. So now the deal is not finalized because it's now under investigation and scrutiny by the Hong Kong government. Hong Kong government just said that they're looking into it. But nonetheless, there's a lot of people very angry with Li Ka-Shing. And
mm,
so the whole deal is now being seen as American bullying China. So what's
yeah.
your take on this whole thing?
Well, this is exactly true. And bullying China to what purpose at the end of the day? We've talked about the real problems that the United States has, why it needs to think through to arrive at proper solutions. And what is it doing instead? It's picking quarrels with China
Mhm.
over things that ultimately are not important. I mean, it's all again about behaving like a bully, proving to yourself how strong you are, getting your way, creating, annoying China, antagonizing China, creating problems between China and a particular businessman, which, all right, that's an internal matter in some respects, but it doesn't move. It doesn't ultimately help you. I mean,
Mhm.
all of these things that Trump has been talking about, all of these various things, even Greenland and all that, these are not answers to America's underlying problems. And America does have time and space, in my opinion. It's a very rich country. It
Mhm.
has the protection of the two oceans. It has a large and diversified economy. It has a large population. It has an abundance still of natural resources.
Mhm.
And it has a strong science and technology base. If there was a purposeful government that knew how to put all of these things together and worked with other countries, especially, I mean, I have to say, especially China, you know,
Mhm.
because China is so big and so strong now economically.
Mhm.
You started to work with them. Um, then you could turn things around in the United States. You could bring things to order. But you have you're fighting a you're creating a fight with China. You are getting the Chinese to signal their extreme displeasure with you,
Mhm.
because to be quite clear, it is the Chinese are not angry with this businessman. They're angry with the United States at the end of the day. In
Mhm.
order to achieve what exactly? What are you gaining here? But it is the American mindset. They have been spoiled for so long by the fact that they could go around bullying other people, that it's a habit that they can't kick. And they think that if they bully a little bit more and bully small countries like Panama or
Mhm.
even bigger countries like Canada, somehow that's going to make their situation better. When, of course, it's not.
Mhm. Mhm. I think one of the problem right now is that the US kind of like not clear to me what kind of relationship even right now US and China has. Because okay, during World War II, you can say, who is the enemy, right? You have a hot war with Germany. Okay, that's clear. And then you have the Cold War with the Soviet, which the two countries pretty much don't do much business at all. Each side on their own.
No.
Right now, we have a situation that China and the US is still doing a lot of business together, but clearly the US is very uncomfortable with everything about China. So what exactly? I mean, there is a war going on, clearly a tech war, a tariff war, a trade war, all kinds of wars going on. I mean, not a real battleground war, but so what kind of a relationship the US and China right now have? Do you have a word for it?
Well, a very, very complicated one. Neither war nor peace.
Yeah.
We're not yet in a Cold War
Mhm.
situation, because the Cold War had its own framework. I mean, you had two two superpowers, which were rivals in the global system, with
Mhm.
different economic systems, and they didn't trade very much, and
Mhm.
they had very active diplomacy with each other, and they maintained very active diplomatic interchanges. But that was basically all they did. I mean, they didn't trade. They
Mhm.
each lived, if you like, in their own island. I mean, they had their own sphere of influence, and they traded with that. But that was all.
Yeah.
But China and the United States are in a completely different position. And the Americans haven't even thought it out for themselves,
Yeah.
what exactly it is that they want from China. I mean, they haven't, in fact, but they have this sort of visceral feeling that because China's this big country and
Mhm.
it's overtaken them as the world's biggest economy, which it has, that somehow violates what the Americans believe is the natural order of things, which
Mhm.
is that America is always on top and everybody else is below them. And they somehow have this feeling that you must somehow push back against that, and it's making their policy towards China ever more bizarre and irrational.
Mhm.
I mean, when China was poor,
Mhm.
50 years ago, it was much easier for the United States. Now that it's rich, well,
Mhm.
that's very, very bad and very, very dangerous. And I don't. I think you're absolutely right to ask the question, and I have no simple word for it. It's a
Mhm.
situation of neither war nor peace. It's
Mhm.
not a Cold War like the Cold War that we had between the Soviet Union and the United States, which had its rules
Mhm.
and its philosophies, if you like. We have nothing like that between China and the United States now. We just have this constant tension and this constant conflict, and without any real understanding or thinking in Washington of what it is. And for China, by the way, this is very difficult, because how do you relate to a partner that is as confused as that?
Mhm.
Because the
Mhm.
confusion is entirely on the American side.
Mhm. Now, regarding Li Ka-Shing, I just want to share with you, he actually is very much hated. It's actually not
Oh,
just
I know, I know. He's very unpopular. He's very unpopular here in Britain as well, by the way, just to say.
well, he invested a lot in Britain, right? And he didn't make money out of the British investment.
No,
So
no, no.
anyway, so he actually had a little bit problem with Xi Jinping a long time ago, which I recently find out. So Xi Jinping, before he became the Chinese president, he was in Fujian province. So he was I don't know if you call it the governor, the head of the Fujian province. So he went into mainland
Yeah,
China when China opened up, and he made a huge amount of money, taking advantage of the fact that the mainland China was in a transition and not a whole lot of rules
yeah.
and laws put in place in terms of the for the real estate developers. He actually took advantage of that, and among other places in Beijing and in all the big cities, and the locals officials always gave him a green light until he got to Fujian. There was a historical old neighborhood. He wanted to build a tall building there, and Xi Jinping said no. I think this must upset him really very much because he got, Beijing, Shanghai, everywhere. Treated him like a king. And here you have Xi Jinping said, no, you cannot build it there. It's a historical neighborhood. Just when I find out, actually, I have more respect for Xi Jinping because one thing he did in Beijing, I actually hate, is there is a historical neighborhood in central Beijing. He developed the whole thing. and destroyed a lot of the old neighborhood characters. I mean, for nothing. And among other things, there was actually a McDonald's at the heart of Beijing. There is a McDonald's. At the time was the largest McDonald's in the world. And it's like a tourist spot. It's not just the food itself, but also lots of people go there because it's packed with people, 2, 3 floors, and it's just over the place. But it's kind of like a fun place for lots of kids going there, young people go there. And then next to it is some older neighborhood, the Beijing neighborhood, with a lot of characters. And he basically tore down the whole area and built just like a box, those kind of typical modern building, which if you go today, there is no character at all. So I actually really hate that project. I'm not the only person in Beijing that hates that project.
Yeah.
And then, so when I learned that Xi Jinping said no to him, I actually have more respect for Xi Jinping. But that's also explained the two of them don't get along very well, just so you know.
Oh, that is very, very interesting. By the way, if you go to Moscow, you see the same. I mean, a lot of damage done by oligarchs in the 90s.
Yeah.
There's a whole area around Red Square, very close to Red Square, actually, which was a whole kind of leisure development that was created there, which is hideous and makes absolutely no sense. And it was created in profoundly corrupt way, in exactly the way that you've just described. So he's also, by the way, since you've spoken about him, he's also very unpopular in Britain, and he used to bankroll the Conservative Party here, by the way, just to say, which maybe people in China don't know. No, absolutely, yeah. So he got an awful lot of things in Britain too, but there we go. I'm not surprised he's unpopular.
And he has some title, right? Is the Queen gave him a title, so he's called a Sir or something? How does this work? What does those Sir means? Who gets it?
That the king calls you sir. That's all it means. I mean, it's once upon a time, it did mean something. It meant that you were a person of considerable eminence and things of that. It's a kind of honor. But to be honest, I mean, you say that it's the Queen who gave it to him. It would have been the Conservative government that really gave it to him, because they draw up the lists, and basically he bought himself a knighthood. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was he was close to the Conservative Party.
Oh, yes, he was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't close to the Conservative Party. He was paying the money in return for, I mean, it's exactly like what it sounds he was doing. In China, he was going into places, doing what he wanted to do. People were letting him do it. And he found his friends, and he bought some of them. At least in Britain, he did.
Yeah, he actually.
I'm not surprised about Xi Jinping, by the way. Everything I've heard about Xi Jinping, that is completely consistent with what I know about Xi Jinping. It's a very, very tough man.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't something that people talk about much in the West, but he absolutely is. I mean, he's very, very, he doesn't like corruption. He doesn't like things of that kind. And I can absolutely see how he might have shown the door to, well, we call him Li Ka-Shing here, but
Li
I
Ka-Shing,
presume, there we go. But, anyway, there we are. Rupert Murdoch, another oligarch in Britain, who's walked all over us and done all kinds of things. And it's been exactly the same.
Sounds to me like Britain is not that independent country being run by the foreign oligarchs. Not just
it's not.
Foreign oligarchies.
No, it's not. I mean, we opened the door to oligarchs, and it's profoundly corrupted our politics and our social life, and it's distorted our economy, and it's done very, very bad things altogether. But this is a huge topic to discuss. Just the same.
Yeah, and Li Ka-Shing he's absolutely awful. He drives up the real estate prices in Hong Kong, and very manipulative to, like, for example, the environmentalists and the animal lovers. He would use them to stop building buildings and saying, oh, you hurt the ecosystem of this and that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's had nothing to do with the environment. It's just that he want to control the number of apartments being built. That's what he wanted. So just a very manipulative guy. Yeah. Anyway,